cell merging in the XtraGrid depends on adjacent values being identical. Cells with identical values are merged automatically if the option GridOptionsView.AllowCellMerge is true. Sometimes cell merging is desirable in cases where adjacent values are not exactly the same. An example for this is the use of date-time values where only the date part should be considered for merging purposes. The GridView.CellMerge event needs to be handled to make this work. Starting from a new WinForms application, I drop an XtraGrid control on the form and dock it to its parent. For the grid view, I set the property OptionsView.AllowCellMerge to true. For the purpose of this example, I'm going to use a simple list as my data source. I enter the designer, switch to the column view, and create a column manually, setting both the caption and the field name properties to my date time. In form1.cs, I add a small class to store my test data. In my form constructor, I create some test data and bind it to the grid. Note how the test data is structured so that some records have the same date, but different time information. I run the application. Unfortunately, cells are not being merged yet because there are no values in the data source that are exactly equal. Back in the designer, I create an event handler for the cell merge event on the grid view. I start adding the code I need to make the cells merge on the date. First, I need to find out whether I'm looking at the right column. Yep, there's only one in this example, but in reality, there's going to be more than one. I need a reference to the grid view I'm working with. To be more flexible with the code in this event handler, I retrieve that reference from the sender parameter instead of referring to my grid view statically. I also need to add a using statement for the namespace devexpress.xtragrid.views.grid. Using the references from the cell merge event args, I can now retrieve the two adjacent values that need to be compared. Finally, I find out whether the date portions of the two values are equal, and I set the merge property accordingly. Since no other merging considerations need to be made after I'm done with this algorithm, I also set the handled property to true. That's it. I run the application again, and now the cells with equal dates are merged. This feature is a good example for the flexibility that many DevExpress products have. Where configuration of properties alone doesn't suffice, event handlers can often offer additional functionality. Thanks for watching, and of course, for choosing DevExpress.